Okay, so the main event of today's discussion, ladies and gentlemen, Starfield. Starfield Direct lasted a solid 45 minutes. And when I say a solid 45 minutes, I mean a solid 45 minutes. It was not enough time for them to tell us everything, but at the same time, they told us everything that we needed to know. And long story short, in terms of, well, the beginning part of this discussion at least, is that yes, this game is absolutely 100% ambitious. It's going to be one of the biggest games that was ever made. It's going to be one of the most ambitious games that's ever been made. And if it works, if it's functional as well as it could be at launch, um it's going to be one of the greatest gaming accomplishments in gaming history. Period. I In terms of what Bethesda is going for with this game, in terms of what you can do, where you can go, the relationships you can build, the things you can build within the world, like for instance, let's put it this way. If you want to build your base on the moon or on a specific planet that you visit, that's what's in the world, in the multiple worlds, and you want to build your base a very specific way, you can do that. And you can do things in this game that will allow you to do that and get those resources. If you want to spend hours, if you're one of the people that spends hours like developing your character in terms of how they look, as well as their traits and stuff like that, you name it, right? You can do that. And when the developers themselves are saying that it's going to be like on a whole other level compared to Fallout, that says a lot. Now, one of the biggest, we're going to talk more about this, but one of the biggest elephants in the room is obviously that the game on the Series X is going to be capped at 30. Okay, but like I mentioned before in my previous commentary, the one thing that is going to be the redeemable factor for this game running at 30 on console is the gameplay and everything that you can do in it. And if they get even 70 to 80% of this functional and enable like it is and as bug free as possible, which is another concern, then people are going to be praising it. There are going to be a lot of players and a lot of content creators and new streamers that are going to be coming out of the woodworks because of this game. This is one of those games where you're going to spend hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, attempting to do everything in it. And even if you don't want to attempt to do everything in it, you're going to repeatedly do what you want to do, but in different ways. Like, no matter what it is. And these developers are literally giving you the option to doing just that. Like, from a gameplay perspective, if you want to run around and run and gun, you could do that. If you want to go stealth, you can do that. If you don't want to use your weapon at all, you can do that. You can switch on the fly from first person to third person. So let's say, for instance, you're a player that likes the shooting combat in first person. You can do that. And then whenever you explore, you can be in third person, right? So this is a Bethesda RPG through and through. They've already made themselves very clear on that. So if you are a fan of Fallout, right, and those types of games, chances are, ever since this Starfield Direct, chances are you are very much still erect from this event. I am not even kidding. I'm not even being humorous when I'm saying that. I'm being realistic, because in terms of what they showed and everything that you can do and the level of depth of all those things, like, one of my favorite content creators out there is Gerard the completionist, right? I don't even know if he can make a completionist episode on this game, because if he were to attempt to complete it literally, which means doing everything that there is to do in the game, including achievements and trophies and stuff like that as well, right? it's going to take a ridiculously long ass time. Okay? A ridiculously long ass time. It's almost like these developers don't want players to play anything else. Now, obviously, they will play other games. You know, that's something that doesn't really stop anybody from doing that. But you guys get the point. Like, this game is going to be a lot of players' main game, and I think it's going to have a lot of elements in it that's going to make it addictive or whatnot. Like back in the day, people were talking about World of Warcraft ruining relationships, and at the same time, it was also not just ruining relationships, but it was also forging relationships and forming them. So, um, you know, because I'm sure at some point people were saying, you know, of it's like, oh, my boyfriend spends too much time playing, or I'm sorry, you know, my friend spends all day playing WoW or whatnot, and some people actually met through WoW and all that kind of stuff. Pretty insane, right? Just to name one example. And then obviously Halo 2 did what it did later on when Xbox Live came out and how people were immersed in that. But I think in terms of this generation, Starfield may be that next iteration of that, like that next game that is going to consume so much time from a lot of players, especially players that love that sort of thing, that like it's going to be talked about for a while, especially if the developers succeed. Now, obviously and rightfully so, a lot of people are jaded in terms of, you know, they're kind of they're everybody's hyped. I mean, every single comment I've seen, every single video I've seen, everybody's praising it, and rightfully so, especially when you consider the development standpoint. But we can't forget about what happened with Fallout 77, or you know, the previous Fallout game. You know, um, it's something we can't forget. So I mean, granted, it's better now, but you guys get the point. Timing is everything when it comes to games, and the fact that this game is coming out in like what 3 months, and with all its ambition, with everything that they've implemented in the game, and just how deep it is and stuff like that, as hyped as we are, I mean, we also have a right to be concerned, because it's like this game is going to be nuts when it launches, and players that actually buy the game will have 5 days early access to it, and I do know that a lot of players are going to buy it, especially if those players are content creators. And then obviously, after those 5 days are up and the game's officially released on Game Pass and all that kind of stuff, people are going to be all over it. And I think there's going to be a lot of content and streams and all that other shit to be made. And it's going to be very interesting because everybody's story with this game is going to be unique in and of itself. And people are going to be posting videos like, oh my gosh, look what I found, or oh my gosh, look what I did, look what I've discovered. Because they also literally have 1,000 planets, if not more, in this game. So the question is, how in the world do you keep this from becoming repetitive or boring? That's a developer question. I don't know the answer, but all I know is that their answer seems to be like, we're going to give the player to approach however the hell they want, in whichever way they want. So this game is basically, it's all about options, right? Which is great. I think it's going to be the main ingredient that allows the game to become successful, right? With the amount of options and accessibility and capabilities that the player is going to have, it's like, it's going to take them away from other games. And it's like, you know, I mean, especially if it works, it's like, well, this game's giving me all the options and all the opportunities. Why would I want to play something else? You guys get the point. I mean, granted, this is their vision. It's been their vision for years. And now that they have the technology to make it, it's pretty insane. And when you're talking about forging relationships, building your ships in any way you want, and going on missions, side missions, boss fights, gun battles, creating your base, going to like wherever you see on your screen, it's insane. And here's another question I have. How much space is this game gonna have? Let me say that again. How much space is this game going to have? I'm sorry. How much space is it going to require? Like, how many gigs of space are we going to need in our PCs or Xboxes in order to play the game? Because this game seems to be freaking huge, man. So Now with one of the Final Fantasy games, people are saying, "Oh, this game's got 2 discs, and that's huge." And but we don't know yet. We don't know how many discs Starfield's going to have, or whatever the deal is going to be. So, uh, if you have not seen the 45-minute presentation of the Starfield showcase or the Starfield Direct or whatever the hell it's called, highly recommend you do so, and you will see exactly what everybody's been talking about. Um, I mean, there's 4 different ranks for all your perks and traits, and you can switch them in certain cases, and you can have occupations, and there's just like the replayability of this game is gonna be nuts. Even if the game itself is like 30 to 40 hours in terms of the main story, but then you got your side quests and all that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, you got many different ways to play the game. Like, do you want to be a criminal? Do you want to be an explorer? Do you want to be a I mean, there's different traits and shit and perks within them, and 4 levels to unlock those perks. I mean, do you want to be a thief? Do you want to be, I mean, seriously. So it's like the replayability of the game is going to be through the freaking roof, man. So, I mean, just imagine playing the game in every single way possible. Again, this is why I think Gerard, the completionist, this might not be possible for him. I mean, the man's got to keep making content. He's probably going to have to stop like his content for months if he wants to complete Starfield. And that's just not reasonable. But you guys get the point. A lot of players are going to be sinking in some ridiculous hours into this game. And it's going to be very interesting in terms of what those players find and how they decide to go about it. And when it comes to content creation, I think we're going to see a very interesting group of content creators that are going to be covering Starfield in terms of their adventures and all that kind of stuff, right? So that in of itself is exciting. Whether you're into those kind of games or not, you can't help but appreciate what Bethesda is offering to their fan base with a game like this, and that's this in depth. Holy shit, dude. Um I mean, you get to explore, space and try to answer the question of what's out there. You get to discover aliens and creatures. You get to discover, like, have side quests with different NPCs, and I guarantee you they probably haven't even showed half of what you can do, if that. So, um, yeah. Uh, as far as I'm concerned, I'm hoping that the gameplay's fun. But other than that, Starfield's going to be one of the greatest accomplishments ever if the game ends up functioning the way it should at launch, and with as many as the littlest amount of bugs as possible, because this game is so full of content that it's like they're definitely going to miss a few things, but a lot of players that are familiar with that sort of thing are going to be willing to forgive it because the game is just so ambitious. It's giving the players like so many choices, and literally letting them do whatever they want when they want within the world of the game. Um, and at the end of the day, the developers are going to be praised for it, especially if it's done right, and not just if it's done right, but also if it's um, functioning properly, which is one of my biggest areas of concern at this point. But I'm willing to give the developers the benefit of the doubt. I have faith in them. I admire their creativity, and I admire them literally shooting for the stars in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. But with that being said, um, it's going to be very interesting in September when this game releases. Um, and everybody's going to be talking about it, especially if it succeeds. And if it doesn't succeed, the last thing Microsoft as well as Bethesda need is negative publicity again. We don't need another, Fallout 76 or whatever it was, or Fallout 77 of what happened. So, um, and this game is going to be the killer app for Xbox if they succeed the way they think they will. So, with that being said, that concludes the 4th main topic that I wanted to add today. So, at the end of the day, I want to know what are your thoughts on Starfield? What are you hoping for the most? What are you going to do when you play that game? Are you going to be an explorer? Are you going to be a thief? Are you going to be a bounty hunter? I mean, what are you going to do? What kind of relationships are you going to forge? Where in the universe are you going to build your base? How is your ship going to look like? Things like that. Or are you a person that's going to try to find every single side quest and try to complete it in that aspect? I legitimately want to know. So, with that being said, this concludes our long discussion on these four topics. And I would like to know down in the comment section what you guys think overall. I like to thank everybody for listening and or watching. I am going to rest my voice now, and I will catch you guys on the next stream and or in the next videos. Take care. Have a wonderful night and or morning wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll catch you later.